Hello, welcome to Nubians on the Nile. My name is Jackie, and I will be diving into the religion and beliefs of the Nubians. We're going to look into the spiritual world of a culture that not only interacted with ancient Egypt, but also built its own powerful religious identity along the Nile. Everyone has heard of the Egyptians and some of the gods or deities that are famous in that culture are known as Osiris and Amun. But how does this connect with Nubians? They are the southern neighbors of Egypt, and they happen to worship these same gods. How did their beliefs compare to those of Egypt? That's what we'll be exploring today. Everything from their sacred temples to the lasting powers of these gods. It's good to know that the Nile River is the lifeline of both Egypt and Nubia. The river is marked by something called cataracts. There's 6 of them, and these are territories that just define different cities. The first cataract, which is the border of Egypt, it is today what is known as today's southern Egypt and northern Sudan. It is an important city because it was known as the buffer zone, a city called Philae. You will find notable temples that were complexes located in the lower Nubian area along the Nile River, and you will find writings from Egyptians, although they're negative writings. The way they depict Nubians as you still can't discredit the fact that they interacted and sometimes they married and traditions were shared. So they may have not liked each other, but they definitely coexisted for a very long time. The importance of this city comes from the Egyptian kings and their special interest that they took in Philae. These temples that were dedicated to their own gods later were maintained and funded by Nubian rulers. They would host annual celebrations and honor the gods at these temples and just make sure that they were kept up with. So the Nubians did all the heavy lifting, I guess you could say. Nubia, bordering Egypt, and also for the most part was typically under their control. Amun was also another god that was adopted and worshipped by Nubians. Amun was known by both of the cultures and interpreted as a warrior and protector. Women worshipped with dance, and temples that you'll find in Jebel Barkal were dedicated to her. Osiris was another god, which was the symbol of afterlife, god of the dead. He ruled over the netherworld, and it was believed that he contained all the souls of all Egyptians. Death was believed not to be a final destination, but a continuation of the soul. Some of the rituals practiced that you would find interesting is the offering of milk. In Philae's temple, which is located in the first cataract, this is the temple of Isis, and milk was seen as a transfer of life and power to the deceased. Milk was something they'd offer to aid in the rebirth of Osiris. These rituals would be performed during the early fall when the Nile flooding had reached its peak. As for the god Amun, one of the most sacred sites, Jebel Barkal, this was sacred to the Nubians. This site was believed to be his home, which was found in Sudan. There's pyramids grouped in 4 clusters, and 3 of these clusters are near a mountain known as Pure Mountain. These pyramids were more of monumental tombstones. This does make them different from Egyptians because rather than being actual burial sites, pyramids were very close together and usually built after the death by a successor. These were more seen as a monumental tomb where you can go and honor someone or a god that has passed. Amun was originally an Egyptian deity, but he was deeply embraced by the Nubians. They saw him as a protector and a warrior, and a god who provided strength to their kings. And Jabal Barakal was a great way for them to offer dedication and honor. This mountain, this pure mountain, became the Nubians' most sacred site and was the heart of their spiritual world. Pyramids were usually under 100 feet, and what they lacked in size, they made up for symbolism. Right next to the Jabal Barakal stands a 245-foot rock formation that's shaped like a cobra. It does wear Upper Egypt's white crown, which was sort of a symbol of their power and divine kingship to the Nubians. It was a sign that their rule and religion shared the same sacred origins that the Egyptians did. Nubian religion later evolved, eventually faded, with Christianity slowly creeping in. It spread through the region and it changed everything. When Rome conquered Egypt in 30 BCE, temple funding stopped, priests lost their jobs, and worship centers began to crumble. Although not all of them at once, the temples at Philae, the ones that were dedicated to Osiris, they continued on their rituals for nearly 500 years after the Roman conquest. That does show how strong their beliefs truly were. Eventually, with Christianity, they left behind their old gods and they carried forward with the new belief. They moved on with cultural and spiritual legacy of the Christianity religion. So although the Nubians did share a lot with Egypt, they shared gods, temples, and ideas of afterlife, they weren't imitating, but they transformed these ideas into traditions of something of their own. It was the Nubian belief that death was a continuation of life. And it is good to see Egypt and Nubia not as rivals, but as partners in a long cultural journey. These two civilizations shaped and they helped reshape each other for thousands of years. So when you think of Nubia, I hope that you think of a story of people who stood beside one of the world's greatest empires and were still able to build a legacy of their own.